limited, and let's see how limited it's going to be as we hop into the first game of the day. Beastyqt versus B&B in the Cauldron.
Indeed, spawning in on the left side is going to be Beastyqt as the Mongols in blue, and on the right side it is going to be B, playing as the Delhi Sultanate in red. The map that you're witnessing right now is Cauldron, which is our fixed map for the 1st July weekly, and I have to say, so far we have seen some impressive games out there with a large amount of variety. Speaking of which, B is going to open up for the dock.
Oh, I love this. I actually love this right now. This is something we don't really get to see the Delhi do these days, because you might remember the days of the Delhi dominance Lidakor when you had Confluence and Mongolian Heights and the fishing boat pool killed your fleet. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. But the cool thing about doing it on a map like this is it's going to be very hard for BC to deny him out. That's not a river. That's not a thin territory of water that you can cover with one outpost. So if you try to just dive in too deep to get an outpost in to block all of it off, you're going to get peppered by arrows. So the Mongol outpost rush will not work in this center area.
I agree with that, and that's a great idea from B over here, because it also acts to a certain extent as a buffer. Like, it's going to be much easier to spot those units passing by, and as you said, Delhi fishing ships, that's a great way to make it much more difficult for the enemy villagers or spearmen to reach your base intact.
And I thought this map would be good for Delhi. I've been talking about this last 2 or 3 days on my streams. I believe I mentioned it on the official stream here, that the sacred sites are fairly easily accessible, and they are somewhat contained in a way that you can wall them off, because a lot of generations end up just giving 2 paths from the opponent's base. And the Delhi are a tempo set, so if they get the forefront, they can wall the opponent in and easily cap all 3 sacred sites. A very powerful timing for the Delhi. Now, B has presented another argument to me, something to make it seem even better. This fishing in the center, I've been wondering what Civ would use it best, and I think he's right on this. I actually think it might be Delhi that do it better than any other Civ.
Yeah, I love it a lot, especially against a civilization like Mongols, because it's not just one thing that you're getting with that fishing, it's actually 2. As you said, it makes it much more difficult for Beastyqt to tower him, and you see that the villager has to take the long way around. This is going to delay the tower rush a tiny bit, and this is quite impactful here for B, because every second you delay the tower rush, you decrease the chance of Beastyqt from doing sufficient damage here to the Delhi early game.
Oh man, but this was a coin flip, and Beastyqt, he got the heads he was looking for. And as a result, Delhi heads might roll, because if he came on the south side, this outpost rush sucks. You can't sneak in, you can't get in the gold veins. This is the pristine location. He can start blocking off the wood, and doing so hidden from the Delhi base, and then wrap around onto both gold veins. Make no mistake, this was a 50-50 moment, and Beastyqt, he got the good odds, he got the good outcome.
Oh, looks like that board was aggroed for a brief moment by B, trying to damage some of those spearmen, and at least he catches the spears. So he knows that there is aggression coming over here from Beastyqt. He should expect that tower coming up on his wood line. And he actually has a barracks out here. Wait a minute. That's how a Dark Age barracks looks like. This is the first time I actually see a Dark Age Delhi barracks.
Yeah, because here's the funny thing, folks. Like, why would you build Spearman Lidakor when your villagers do the same damage and you can heal them with a scholar anyway? That's the thought process of most Delhi players. B is doing a very unordinary thing here, going so early into the racks. Like, realistically, he could stop this outpost rush right now by pulling all his villagers. But you want to know why he can't? B isn't even close to having Wool Barret. He doesn't even have a mill yet.
Oh, he's pulling the villagers, though. Tower goes up here, villager garrison. Little too late, but there's the scholar to heal. With good micro, you could possibly get this taken down. Tower focusing down the scholar. Oh, this is gonna be dicey. Well.
Needs to be careful with this. Trying to peel him back now. Takes a heavy dose of damage and should just about be out of garrison.
Nice micro.
Nice optimization.
Beautiful micro. Not a single unit lost here from B's end. And in the end, he might actually even get the villager killed. Tower gets burned down. All the aggression from Beastyqt gotten rid of here by B. Great reaction.
Problem here though, Lidakor, because now if Beastyqt does it again, B can't use the scholar. So this isn't over yet. And in fact, if Beastyqt keeps pushing spears, B's only choice is to double them up eventually on that count. And you don't feel comfortable with that because you don't get the double production like the Mongols do. You haven't got this efficiency in early unit production to the same extent, especially when you're still not on the berries.
Exactly, that's a great point that you bring up. Like, you can't fight Spearman versus Spearman in Dark Age against Mongols because it's just much more resource efficient for the Mongols over here. Now it looks like B is moving out towards the berries. The villager is low HP. You could possibly get a kill on it, and then the spearmen don't matter. Look at that.
And Beasty feeling ambitious. That maneuver arrow wouldn't have changed anything for the villager at that stage. Couldn't even gap close to body block off. Nice maneuver. And B, as the result of this, gets the premium room he needs and now is moving out into the gold as well as the berries, looking to inflate his economy.
And look at that tower coming up in the middle as well by Beastyqt, trying to tower the fish. But this is where the Delhi fishing ship come into play. These bad boys, they can fire arrows. It's not sufficient to kill enemy fishing ships, but it is good enough to deter aggression from land-based units.
He might get it though, Lidakor, because look where it's located.
Ooh.
It's right on the edge of Still Forest. Phone tap, Beasty!
Oh! Everything going in the favor of B.
It was a nice idea because if B's distracted, we have to remember like that those fishing boats aren't going to automatically attack their targets. They changed the way that naval combat works, and that's why he wasn't insta-peppering the right one. Oh my, that moment could have changed a lot here because that would have been a pristine outpost, but he can still pull a villager to complete it, and I believe Beasty is going to do that because it's that much of a valuable outpost.
Yeah, he also has the spearman nearby, so the spearman itself from B is going to be insufficient to stop that. Indeed, tower goes up here, villager survives.
Garrison comes out. Now this gets really frustrating for B because he also doesn't want to lose the dock. Because if he loses the dock, that's not only another 150 wood on top of the wasted fishing boats that now don't do anything else. On top of that, you've now just given 25 food and gold across to the Mongols. So frustrating state of affairs. Love that he keeps the spears out here and buffers this away, but one good side of this, remember these outposts, they can be annoying, but until we get a patch, those fishing boats don't take bonus damage from outposts.
And the reason why that matters is because B can just get away with fishing. Congratulations, you have a tower in the middle, but B does not care. Those fishing ships are still working, they're not being damaged. You see, not a single one of them has taken essentially any damage. So unfair to Beasty here, but this is how the game works right now.
I mean, you think it's unfair for a Mongol? What about Barbican dropping Chinese player that thinks he's done good work here? I've watched this on Cauldron. It's not pretty. It does nothing. It's a really frustrating state of affairs. I mean, I hope we get that fixed soon because it's clearly not by design. But as far as I can tell, it's something to do with the fact that if a unit has a worker tag as well as another tag on it, worker tag takes priority, and worker units don't have any bonus damage against them.
Indeed, and fishing ships do have the worker tag. That's the reason why at the top of the overlay, they add to the villager count. That is the reason why B does have now a 13 eco lead overall. And if he cleans this up, he can start unlocking the real power of the Delhi Sultanate here. This is looking really good right now for B.
Yeah, everyone's watched Star Wars. It's in unlimited power right now. This is unlimited spearman. And at this rate, B's going to win because he has that fishing economy, which means he can stay ahead. Remember, earlier on, he didn't have efficient production, so he couldn't keep up the rates. But now that it's there for Scholar Bank, he can easily exceed what BC can do. BC's only choice is going to be to transition some other way or try to just step back fully and go for an eco boom. But if you do that, you're surrendering mid-map to the Delhi, and that never ends well.
Especially if you consider the fact that these spearmen will be good in the long run as well. Like, when you take a look at the Mongol tower rush with the spearmen, you just use them to get the towers up. After that, they essentially become obsolete, but not for the Delhi. For the Delhi, they can still use them to build walls around the sacred sites, and usually they like to go for that combination of horsemen spearmen anyways. So these spearmen for B, these will have long-term value, unlike the ones remaining for Beasty.
And something I love about the way that B's optimized his early game is a lot of players playing the Delhi like this, they wouldn't go for the spears, they would have just went for villagers to shiv down spears because both units do 6 damage. But B has understood that this aggression would last so long that the idle time in his economy would impact his ability to play the game. In fact, the lost eco from attacking spearmen with his villagers wouldn't be worth it in comparison to just spamming spears.
Indeed. And this was so far a very good reaction from him. Nice micro as well, because this was a very micro-intensive engagement. And he has survived possibly the hardest part of the game for the Delhi Sultanate here. And now, thanks to that fishing eco and thanks to the berries together, he can really start flooding units out here. He's up to 17 military as compared to Beasty's only 6. What's even more shocking is that he's got 60 population against Beasty's 35.
And it's just going to get more vulgar soon as well because you can see what he's researching. He's got enough fishing boats for shoreline fish, so now he's going for the efficiency, which of course is going to be free. Now, limited shoreline fish on his safe side, which means he will want to start stockpiling up spears and horsemen to take out those outposts because eventually he does need to move out. And as we were noticing, there are enough arrows now coming out from those static defenses to cause some damage.
And also, one of the sacred sites are right next to that pond out there, so you really have to get rid of that. On the bright side of things, once you get rid of that tower, your fishing ships will also be able to assist near that sacred site in case there's any fighting going on. But it looks like he's detaching the horsemen, sending them towards the base of Beastyqt here. Not much to kill, most villagers are under the town center.
He suspects a boom up right now, Lidakor. He hasn't seen more aggression coming out from Beastyqt, so he assumes he's trying to sidestep, and he's right. Look what's happening. Double Pasha being built up, and straight onto the Uvu, trying to bait attention while there's not enough spears here. Behind this, there's a wave coming in, a wave of spears diving towards Beastyqt's base. He might be in trouble.
Yeah, this timing is looking really good here for B, because he's hitting that timing where Beastyqt is going into Castle Age. If you take a look at the resources, Beastyqt wants to fast castle this. And the key thing here for B is that he could target the Ovu. He might not be able to kill the villagers, but even just getting rid of the Ovu will make it much more difficult for Beastyqt to mass-produce men-at-arms. Ooh, yeah.
Whoops. Okay, he's not going to commit for it. Low armored units, so instead of just take the Uvu out. In fact, like, he doesn't even need to rush this Uvu down now because there's nothing that's going to be producing out next to it. Yeah, he knows the step readout's coming out, but look at the resource gain. All of a sudden, the surge up for B. Hasn't really even captured sacred sites. That's the funny part about this. This could be a naked castle age for B in terms of sacred site control. He wouldn't be getting any gold from anywhere else but his mining camp.
And by destroying that Ovu, he ensures that he's not going to get flooded by Castle Age units at the beginning of Castle Age by Beastyqt. That delay is immensely valuable for him because it buffers him up for himself to reach Castle here.
I actually find it remarkable that B is doing this without a single sacred site. They're now coming through the caps, but like realistically, if you had to weigh this game, who's ahead right now, like B's like 65, 70%, I think. And it's crazy to think he's done that off the back of having 0 sacred sites underneath his influence.
Yeah, obviously the fishing eco comes in clutch over here. Those fishing ships have been working for 5, 6, 7 minutes now, almost non-stop. And even though some of them were lost, bit of an underwhelming fight here for B.
Not the best choice here. Although, considering scholars aren't busy capturing sacred sites, I guess they could stop off to heal a few horses, right?
Or you can stop the step readout with your spearmen even. That's an even better setup for B.
That delay stings because look what's happening. The Stinger himself, B, is now building up with the compounded defenders. This could turn into a very uncomfortable game for Beastyqt because this signals that B is going to start posturing aggressive keeps outside of Beastyqt's base.
And I think it's going to be compounded defender indeed. So that also means that we're not going to have Lancer Wars. No owned blades here for the Delhi player. It's going to be all about the elephants, and this is where delaying that Castle Age comes into play. If you're playing with the slow-moving elephant, you gotta be the aggressor. You can't be the one reacting and defending. And by delaying the Castle Age of Beastyqt, he's setting himself up to be the aggressor rather than being the defender.
Yeah, and the whole concept around combat defender, like, it's such a contradictive name because it's not used for defense. Well, it's used for defenses, but not defensively. Like, he wants aggressive keeps eventually around these sacred sites. He also has the potential to wall in. I've noticed this on Cauldron. Because of the generations, it's actually feasible to go back for stone walls. And it's something we forget because we don't see it very often these days, Lidakor. But remember, those troops, those infantry can now build stone walls as well.
Indeed, and stone walls are allowed beyond Castle Age. So the players are not allowed to build stone walls when they are in Feudal Age, but once you get to Castle Age, that's an option for you. I think it's just the fact that, you know, the Delhi Sultan, they want to be the aggressor. They don't want to sit behind the stone wall, so that's the main reason why we're not seeing it there very frequently from them.
And right now, he is staying off the stone because he's fixated around the sacred sites and relics, which does make sense to begin with. And of course, he wants to invest his initial resources into his first Castle Age troops. And we can see a diverse range coming out. He's added a few archers in now. He's got man-at-arms coming as well as lancers. And you gotta be real about this. Like, the Mongols, they don't really have a one-up in these departments, right? Their man-at-arms aren't going to be better. Their lancers aren't going to be better. So if you just have the raw number advantage, then you're ahead as B.
Exactly. The Mongols, they base their strategy, as you said, not on quality, but quantity. The double production and the efficiency to flood those units out. But using the same principle, the Delhi can do the exact same because they have a better income of resources with the berries, the fishing eco now for B, and they also have efficient production, so they can match that unit flood of the Mongols, if not even outperform it.
Another thing I actually love about the Delhi against the Mongols specifically is you can't even rely on Yam. You may have noticed some speedy boots on the right side for a moment there. B is getting into Forced March. Forced March is a higher skill ceiling ability, right? Like Yam is great and you can outmaneuver long term in a fight, but a smart player in a critical moment with 10 seconds of double speed move is able to gap close and get behind you, block off your escape, get on your squishy units, do whatever, and dictate the flow. And I'm excited to see if B's going to whip that out, because considering the amount of infantry he's still building, it looks like that may be a key part of his tactic here.
And it could be very valuable against Mongol siege as well, because one thing that we shouldn't underestimate is that Mongols, they love to build their siege on the battlefield, and obviously being able to jump on those with forced march is also an advantage that Delhi can have in castle.
It's so underrated. Like, you've probably started rolling your eyes already when you heard me mention forced march. I talk about it so much because we don't see it frequently enough. There's so many games to the Delhi where it can come in clutch and it's just never researched, almost like people forget it, or they do research it and they still don't use it. So I'm excited to see if B's going to use it, because I've seen him use it in the past quite a lot, and I'm sure he's fully aware of the power that it has, especially if he starts doing this. If he sneaks in a bunch of man-at-arms and force marches deep in the base, he's going to catch Beasty off guard.
Behind this one, B is up to almost 4 relics now. 3 already in the bank. He's going to have the 4th one being brought back. Elephants are getting closer and closer. And the problem for Beasty right now is that his army is mostly spearmen, some men-at-arms, some crossbowmen. Nothing that fares particularly well against the elephants over here.
Oh, he isn't prepared for this. And another issue, like, the Mongols actually aren't bad at dealing with Delhi elephants. The reason is the Yam. Would you like to kind of gauge how much map Beasty has Yam influence over?
How about 15%?
I give him like 20 maybe. We got to remember, like, there's a bunch of cliffs.
Yeah, you're
like,
generous with him.
I feel it's unfair to count the cliffs, right?
Okay, I guess that 20 is gonna be 15 now with those towers getting rid of.
More like 10 at this rate, because there's another one being targeted over here. It's got the sprint coming through at least, but I'm worried. I'm very worried right now, especially considering Beasty isn't even amassing spears, he's amassing crossbows. Elephants backing away. See what I mean by the Yam, right? Like, the ability to stick on top of them for melee units is so critical here.
No scholars to heal.
Ambitious going out on his own.
Yeah, this was a bit of a misplay there for B. He did not have a single scholar backing this up, and despite the fact that he's got technically 7 scholars on the battlefield according to the UI, we don't see any of those helping out the elephants, and this is slowing down his timing over here. He's also yet to start mining stone, so technically he should be the aggressor, but he's slowing down, and this is giving a nice window for Beast to recover.
This is the bait of going elephants too fast. Like, it's a very powerful unit, and in theory, like, if you have the resources to get to pop cap with them, like, in some regards, it's kind of pop cap efficient. But overall, it's slow, it's expensive, and you just have to look at this for what it is. This is a situation where he could have a lot more spearmen, man-at-arms, whatever have you, as opposed to 2 or 3 elephants.
He's going for a second mosque. Did you see that? Close to the front of his base. I wonder what exactly the plan is. He might want to play a little bit slower paced game here. Interesting. Ooh. Normally you just see them going full elephants here in Castle, but you gotta wonder if it's for upgrades again.
No, he's switching to scholars because he's got too much gold now. Look at his gold income. So the concept now is to do the Elephanto fun time. Look at the head pads. Look at the healing they're doing right now. Mangonels won't be able to smash through this unless they can target the scholars out instead. And this is where you get efficient. Even when you're up against spears, crossbows, you just don't care because the scholars are so tanky and there is so many of them flooding the field.
And of course, you do have force march available to try and jump on the Mangonel over here. Mangonel being pulled back, but Elephants now marching forward. And this is the period where he is going to commit.
The healing is just too much. He can't get through any of this, Lidakor. Like, this is the problem right now. There's so many scholars coming out. That's why B is ramped up
and
the production line there.
Let's go!
What up? Big boy in the house. This is the way you use a Bagler, by the way. These suck in naval combat, but they're actually pretty damn good at taking on land units.
And you can focus on the Mangonel with it. That ballista on the Bagler actually does quite a lot of damage to the Mangonel itself. So you could force it away, and once the towers are gone, that Bagla is gonna be more than sufficient to protect this sacred site. And keep in mind, now we have all 3 sacred sites under the control of B. So Beasty, at one point, he's gonna have to decap one of those.
One of those outposts going down. As I said, sacred sites now win condition for B, and because B is baiting so much attention in the center area, Beasty cannot commit forces elsewhere. In fact, Beasty is now committing resources into Magadai. That has to be a misclick.
Yes,
no, he's building a lot more.
I mean, as long as B's base is not walled, you could justify trying to go for like... In principle, it's actually comparable to what you would look like in a landmark snipe scenario, where you just dive in and hope to do enough damage, and then slow down the enemy aggression to buy you time. Like, I can see him going heavy on the Mangadai and saying, okay, I will try to dive into the enemy base here because he's got a slow-moving army, pick off 25 villagers, and hope to slow this game down. I don't know if it's gonna work though. Like, all that B needs to do to prevent that is start walling, and behind this, B can also afford to lose the villagers a little easier than Beasty now, because take a look inside B's base. That is a second town center that B already has.
It's going to be an early warning sign against Magadai raids ins over here. And the other issue with going Magadai in this situation, like, I actually quite like Magadai against elephants when the elephants are in the Delhi base. Well, I guess you could say technically this pond, the cauldron, is the Delhi base, but that's very close to your own, and that's where the elephants win. Is they don't have to go far.
Look at this.
Magadai moving in with the Khan. And he goes to the attack speed hour, peppering them down right now, but these boys should have textiles, so B's villages won't go down too fast.
Yeah,
static defense of a town center going up, he should be safe.
Yeah, static defense is a little slow to go up over here, and now you gotta be careful with those Mangadai because you don't want to trade a single Mangadai to a villager or so. So if the town center starts focusing down the Mangadai, it is a good trade for B to trade 1 or 2 villagers for a single Mangadai.
Oh god. You know what's even a bigger problem, Lidakor, is when the Delhi farmer has so many elephants that he can defend and attack at the same time.
Yeah, so you're telling me it's a bad thing when you have 7 Mangadai against 12 tower elephants?
Yeah, I'm telling you that it's a bad thing for the horse population when the elephants are mating quicker than the horses. It's a problem, all right? Everyone else is worried about global warming. I'm worried about this. Save our horses.
And scholar numbers are also slowly increasing here. If you have a response to those mangonels, Beasty won't be able to hold this. He's trying to work with Springald towers, but notice he no longer has stone income. So he won't be able to add more Springald towers. And that countdown, keep that in mind. It's down to 6 minutes already.
Yeah, B's delaying very well here. And the Mangonels, like you can see, they don't really do much in small quantity here. Not compared to the heal and red the skulls. In fact, the only way this works for Beasty is if he targets the scholars with 3 Mangonels that might do enough damage to dent and often kill a few before they can heal.
Poor Khan.
Well, GG to the Khan. That's going to be the Magadai going down, and that's a big whoopsie daisy. Beasty, maybe this is where we stop investing in them.
Just imagine that Khan. I mean, 2 elephants chasing him, 7 elephants coming from the front. That is the moment where it's like, Chuckles, I'm in danger.
Is that like, is that moment in the movie where the villain gets knocked off of his like giant robot that is like dominating the world and then like gets eaten by a natural predator or something that he's been mean to earlier in the movie? Like, no, you can't do this to me. I'm the Khan.
Yeah, something like that. You know, it's like when the director wants to make sure the audience understands that the villain is dead. So, yes, a whole mountain falls on top of him. The planet explodes. The universe got set on fire just so that the audience understands that the villain is finally gone.
You know you're the villain and are hated when Deus Ex Machina does you, and I don't know if this would be Deus Ex Elephant. Nah, I think that's correct Latin. I don't know. I don't know what was Latin for elephant. I imagine like they were too busy running away from them when they were using war to come up with a name for them.
I mean, truth be told, if you look at your history knowledge, Hannibal managed to get 1 elephant into the Roman Empire, so there has to be a word for it. There might not be a plural though, because there was only 1 elephant.
I think I know what the word was. Oh my God! What is that thing? Which is exactly how I'd feel right now if I was facing this off. 14 tower elephants in the field for B, and 15 scholars to always keep them alive.
And a bugler.
And a bagler. You have to get a little bit close to involve that in the plan, but it's a nice rally point if you ever need to retreat. Dude, oh my God. These Mangonels, like he's trying to take out the scholars, but notice that they're a little bit Neo-like in this situation. I find having over 1.5 movement speed does that.
Yeah, it also helps that you got 15 of them, so the healing rate is quite spectacular out there. Ovu also being camped down over here. Beasty is doing his best to hold, but B is getting closer and closer to that dangerous keep drop. And the scary thing here is that B doesn't even have to level the base of Beasty, because the Sacred Site countdown is down to 4 minutes. At this point, you basically give a choice here for Beasty. you are going for the sacred sites and you lose your base, or you keep your base alive and you lose to the sacred site countdown.
So what you're saying is either die by elephants or die by mass conversion. I assume that's what Sacred Site Victory is called. I wouldn't mind being part of the Elephant Empire. I think I prefer it to dying to them. You know, I'm willing to accept the elephants are our overlords right now.
The question is whether Beast is going to accept such, because he wants to take a decisive engagement over here, a desperate effort to save the town center.
The choke point's going to work against him. Like, he's actually not getting enough troops in quick enough, and the Magadai once again getting peppered down with arrows. Yeah, he keeps the TC alive, but everyone else has to die to do that. And once again, into the breach. Oh, good God. How are 4 Mangonels doing nothing against this? That's just my question right now. It's so depressing to watch.
76 army on the battlefield for
Oh
B.
God, the Mangos. The Mangos! That's it. Yeah, that's the final straw. GG gets called. I'm going to rate this strategy a B out of 10.
What a game here for B. He knew that the tower rush was coming, and the response, though somewhat unorthodox, was really swift and clean, and that's probably what set him up so well in this game. Beasty was counting on that tower rush to be successful, because beyond the 10-minute mark, we have seen essentially a textbook Delhi game. The key thing for B was that he survived that first initial 10 minutes, which is very difficult to do against a really good tower rusher like Beastyqt. B survived that, and then he unlocked the real power of the Delhi Sultanate. Fueled by the berries, fueled by the sacred sites and the fishing eco, he cruises on to a 1-0 lead.
I just love that final moment in B's mind. Like, I'd love to know the thought process. Like, wait, why am I not diving these Mangonels? And BC's instantly like, he figured it out. That was the only thing keeping that game. The problem is, like, if you looked at Beastie's format as it goes on, this is an issue that happens when you get baited into, like, the elephant tornado, which sounds like an amazing thing, by the way. The elephant tornado is where you don't think melee is good enough, so you build mass ranged. And in theory, it's good, but if you can't get ahead of the elephant curve, all it means is you have no front line to protect your back line. And that's what happened there in this situation. Like, the Mangonels had nothing to protect them against elephants. And that's why it was a very swift GG once he makes that one click forward.